just really amazing. So it's an amazing honor to be here. Thank you, Pastor Steve, for letting me serve you guys today. So let's give Pastor Steve, and I don't know where Joy is. She may play in the kids' church, a big hand. Oh, right there. So I would like to introduce you to my family right there. So I lived in Nashville for about, almost 5 years. That was almost like 20 years ago. And I was able to meet my wife in Nashville. I was able to meet her at Bethel, although she's from Austria, Innsbruck. Anyone has been to Austria? I mean, it's a beautiful country. There we go, yeah, obviously. And, those are two of my daughters. The one who's beside my wife is our eldest daughter, and her name is Zara. And I know you guys pronounce it as Zara, but we just would like to be different. We just want to say Zara with a Z. And the other one is, she's 17 right now, and the other one is Zoe. She's 14. And you actually are catching us at a very sensitive time in our lives because just like what Pastor Steve, God has given us the amazing opportunity to be able to plant and pastor our church in Madrid, Spain. That's our Every Nation. You have an Every Nation family back there. So if you get to go, the team is coming, next week. But if ever you get to visit, please visit us. We're in Madrid. We're in the center of Madrid, and those people would love to see you. Just tell them like, hey, we're from your Every Nation family back in Memphis, USA, and they're just gonna love on you. Okay. But we are in a very sensitive spot right now because we are transitioning. After about 16 years of our lives in Madrid, the Lord had spoken to me and my wife last year that our time in Spain is up already. So we're in the middle of transition, and we are excited as to what God has for that church. And how many of you believe that we are so thankful every time God gives us the opportunity to partner with Him? God gave us the opportunity and the privilege to be called to Madrid, Spain. I really didn't know what I was doing, up until now anyway. But we're just so glad that by the mere grace of God, God has planted His church there. And the vision will always be the same, to make disciples, to be able to plant churches all over that city and eventually all over Spain. And again, we are so honored to have that. And this picture actually was taken just in June. We were in the Philippines at that time. We were attending the wedding of our niece. I mean, it was great. It was just amazing. Now, talking about great, I want to mention a phrase that all of you will be very familiar with. And let me just say this, okay? I'm going to mention this phrase, and I don't have any intention to be political. Did you hear me on that? Okay, all right. Well, I guess I can say this because, number one, I'm not American, so I get a pass. All right? I'm originally, I'm from the Philippines. And although I'm also a citizen of Spain, but I get a pass. All right? So don't be offended. And second, I have a point. All right? So I want to mention this because back in Spain and everything was happening here in the United States, I mean, the U.S. is kind of like it's like a show right there, really. And this phrase kept on coming back again and again and again and again and again. And in fact, when Pastor Steve asked me to preach about the topic today, I mean, I remembered this phrase. And again, nothing political. Let's just take it as it is. Do you promise? All right, be nice to me. I'm not really from here, so be nice to me, okay? All right, so every time I would turn on the news and every time I would see anything that has been happening in the United States, I would always see this phrase, make America great again. And I thought it was funny. Thank you for laughing. I thank you, because I was nervous, like, cricket, like... It was so funny because that's just so famous here in the United States. But do you know, actually, this phrase became famous all over the world? I'm gonna look at this list. These are the countries that copied this phrase. Are you even aware of this? I mean, for example, you see Spain. Spain, make Spain great again. And then Oh, we have people from the Philippines. I'm from the Philippines. And then look at that. It says, make Manila great again. I think my favorite is Mexico. Because it says right there in the very bottom, make Mexico great again also. I really love that. I really love that. So anyway, it was just so funny about this word about being great. In fact, when I was thinking about that, I just thought about it. How about I just thought about the church. How about saying make the church great again? Or maybe some of you would think, well, the church is great. So maybe some of you was like, oh no, so let's make the church great again. Or if we really want to be family, how about we say make Kingdom Church great, period. Or actually, I would say make Kingdom Church greater. Because I think it's a great church. Don't you think so? Yeah. You think so, right? I mean, all right. So listen, the word greatness is right there. And we have different definitions of being great. I mean, I don't think you're here this morning and you woke up in the morning and you said to yourself, I just don't want to be great. I don't think so. I think every one of us wants to be great. You know, you're a parent, you want to be great parents. You want your kids to think that you're great, and that's normal. I mean, I've got 2 daughters, as you saw. Or maybe you are, at work, you want your boss, or maybe you're a boss, you want people to see you as a great person. And being in church, you want to be part of a great church. Who would not want to be part of a great church? So all of us have a definition of the word greatness, and we want to be that. But the question is, how can we be great? If I'm here, which I'm here, right? I'm not a ghost, I'm here. I'm a parent, I want to be a great. The question is, how can I be a great parent? I'm a pastor, how can I be a great pastor? You're a wife, you're a husband, how can you be a great husband and a great wife? How can you be a great child? How can you be a great boss or employee? And I'm so glad you asked that question. Because today we're going to talk about that. In fact, this word greatness has been existing for such a long time, even in the first century. And we're going to look into a story right now, and this story will answer the question for all of us right now, 2025, of how we could be great. How can we be great as parents, as children, as bosses, as employees, as servants, as pastors, and as a church? And you know what? It's really great because, in my part of the world back in Spain, when we moved there about 16 years ago, there was only less than 0.1% Bible-believing Christians. And every time I would meet a Spaniard, and a lot of people, I've met a lot of Spaniards, obviously, they would normally say that when we talk about the Bible, for them, it is just basically a book that they use to make their kids sleep. Because they think that the stories are great, especially, like this, they would say, like this whale male, this whale and everything. I love telling that to my kids, during bedtime. I'm just thinking, today, we're not talking about stories, we're not talking about folklore, we're talking about history. Yeah. In fact, here's the thing, guys. There's this one guy whose name is Peter, and he was a disciple of Jesus Christ. And I don't know if you know this one, but Peter, talking about the first century, had an assistant, or I would say a translator, and his name is Mark. Now, Peter, being a fisherman, he was not really well-versed in Greek. I mean, during that time, during the first century, during Jesus' time, everybody spoke fluent Aramaic. Okay? So Peter, being a fisherman, he was not really fully educated. He spoke Aramaic, but he's really not good in reading or writing, especially in Greek. And so he got somebody in the name of Mark who was very smart, who was a scribe, and he was his assistant. In fact, this guy wrote everything that he's heard and seen from Peter, wrote it down, and that's why we have the book of Mark in the Bible. In fact, the book of Mark sometimes is actually called Peter's memoirs because he just recorded everything. And one of these stories we're going to read today. I mean, I can just imagine Peter was, at that time, was with Jesus, and Peter was talking to Mark about this, and Mark was like, I remember this, I'm going to write this down. And thank God today we have this historical account, and we're going to read this historical account, and from this historical account, we'll be able to answer, how can we be great? You ready? Amen. All right, so bit of a context here. So the disciples were in this region called Perea. That's kind of like the east of the Jordan. And so they're traveling east to west, going to Jerusalem. In fact, Mark, I love it because Mark was so specific because he said they were going up to Jerusalem. Why were they going up to Jerusalem? Well, it's because of the elevation. So again, they were in Perea, and then going to Jerusalem, it's a bit high. So they would say they were going up to Jerusalem. Now, I love this. Imagine with me, all right? So they're walking, they're on their way, and then the disciples were talking, and Jesus was in front. And then these guys start to ask Jesus a question. And here's what Mark wrote. Let's read that. It says, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask." I can imagine some of the parents here would say, that sounds like my kids. And I love the answer of Jesus. Here's what he said. I thought we can see it there, but it's fine. Here's what he said. He said, "What do you want me to do for you?" he asked. In other words, it's like, okay, indulge me. All right? And then here's what he said. They replied, "Let one of us sit at your right and the other at your left in your glory." Now, what does that mean? Because sometimes we read and it was like, okay, I understand it. Well, listen, the first one, my first observation is this. The first one is this. I think that the disciples had what I call the SHS syndrome. You know what that is? Have you ever heard of that? Anyone, doctor here? Okay, I'm just making this up anyway. SHS, selective hearing syndrome. I can just imagine Jesus kind of like, gosh. Well, because before this, while they were on their way, Jesus was talking to them. He said, "Guys, we're going to go to Jerusalem, and I want you to know what's going to happen, all right? I will be turned over to the Gentiles, to the non-Jews, and they're going to flog me, and they're going to mock at me, they're going to spit at me, they're going to kill me. They're going to do all these sorts of things towards me, and then after 3 days, I'm going to go rise again." Now, that's from Jesus. Let's turn the camera to the disciples. Jesus was saying, I'm gonna be turned over to Gentiles, and for them, like, and I'm gonna rise up after 3 days. Great. They just heard that part. I'm gonna rise again after 3 days. And then when they said, "Let us sit at your right and the other at your left," what does that mean? Well, because those are the highest places of honor next to a king. Why king? Why did they say in your glory? Because again, you got to understand, during this time, Jesus was so famous. He was doing miracles left and right, and just people have been hearing the name of Jesus. And so all of these people were in Jerusalem waiting for Jesus to come to make him king, because they thought, this is the Messiah that we've been waiting for. He's going to liberate us from the Roman Empire. And this guy's, just performed a lot of miracles. He is the Messiah. Let's make him king. And the disciples knew that. And these two guys were making a political move. He's saying, I'm gonna do this before everybody, before anyone asks. We're gonna just ask this. Basically, what they were saying was, we just want to be great. We want to be great. Now, they have a definition of greatness. Now, come on. Let's not be judgmental, because we do have a definition of greatness as well. For them, it's proximity. If I could just be close to Jesus, and everybody sees that, man, I'm the man. I'm great. Just kind of imagining this. Maybe somebody would probably ask you, or would ask me, "Hey, do you go to Kingdom Church?" "Yeah, of course." "Do you go to Kingdom Church?" "Oh, yeah. Dude, I know Pastor Steve. After service, I talk to him all the time." That's just the way it is. And you? "Oh, well, I'm actually part of the staff. We meet all the time. You just meet him on a Sunday." Dude, I see that guy all the time. Just like that. "And you, Pastor Mel, dude, I had coffee with a guy. Last Friday, I was sitting right in front of this guy. In fact, I was at his left side first. And then I just moved. It was true, right? I was on your left side. And I looked at him straight, face to face. And dude, I'm just not going to say this to everybody, but I'm just going to say it to you because, you're my friend. I bought him coffee. He drank the coffee that I bought. I know this guy. We're like this. Greatness. What's your definition of greatness? I mean, in this world, isn't it? It's like that, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If I could just be at the position, if I could just be close, if everybody just knows me, if I could just have all, I'm going to be great. These guys were no different. We want to be great. We just want to be great. And then, you know what happened? It was so funny because, the other disciples were like looking at these two guys and they were just mad. In fact, Mark said, you got to love Mark. I mean, if you're not reading the Bible, you got to read the Bible. It's amazing. So real. Mark said the other disciples were what? Indignant. Not just annoyed. They were indignant. Why? Because they were thinking, how dare they do that? You know why they were thinking of that? Because they had their own definition of greatness. And their definition of greatness was, I'm greater than you guys. I'm better than you guys. But the problem was everybody was thinking the same thing. And so, let me just summarize this. Basically, Jesus said, no, let's have a staff meeting right now. It's a teaching moment. So they had a staff meeting. Okay, staff meeting. And then here's what Jesus said. He said, meaning like what I'm going to tell you right now, you're not even going to be surprised because you just know this. In fact, after this sentence, I'm not even done with the sentence, you're going to do like this. Right? So that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles or the non-Jews, what? And everybody's like, yeah, they lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. So meaning, again, the first century believers, it was so normal for them to be under an autocratic rule. They knew at that time that being great is about controlling people's lives, it's about subjugating people's lives. And these people thought, if you're going to be king, I got to be in there. I got to have this affinity with you so I can only control people and I can subjugate their lives and I'm going to be great. But Jesus said the next 4 words. I can imagine when Jesus was talking about this. There's like a background music. Not so with you. And then all of a sudden he mentions the next 4 words. Not so with you. And I was like, and probably the disciples were like, what? What do you mean? What do you mean not so with you? Well, Jesus was saying, yeah, not so with you. In fact, we're going to talk about something very different today because I am going to make the rules different. Yes, you. Well, what do you mean not so with you? Well, I'm just not done yet. Here's what Jesus said. He said, whoever wants to become great among you. I love that word, whoever. You know what that means? That means anybody. Greek, Hebrew, English, Spanish, that means anyone. Yeah. And because during that time, anyone who wanted to be great, you should have the right money, you should have the right last name, you should have the right affinity. It's only chosen people who could be great. And again, Jesus was saying, that's so with you. I'm going to change the rules. Anyone, whoever, do you want to be great? You can be great. Do you want to be great? You can be great, bro. You want to be great? You can be great. You want to be great? You can be great. Anyone could be great. We're not talking about age. We're not talking about your last name. We're talking about if you're a pastor, Steve, or whatever, you can be great. Whoever wants to become great among you. And then he says this, playing. There we go. I love the tension right there. Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. And at this particular time, I can imagine the disciples' eyes, boom. Yeah. Because the Greek word that Jesus, mentioned here was really diakonos, and this is the meaning of that word. it meant, right there, please, thank you so much. Anytime now, thank you so much. Those who help others with their interest, even at the sacrifice of their own. It was mind-boggling for them because great and servant, they don't mix. Because again, for them, when they say servant, they have this picture of people being subjugated and being controlled and under compulsion. But the key word here is not just this one, but the key word, next slide please, is those who willingly help others with their interest, even at the sacrifice of their own. So they were like, are there really some people like that? Who are willing to become slaves, who are willing to put others' interests even at the sacrifice of their own. The word is willingness. I'm not being pushed to do this. I want to do this. It's not under compulsion. It's because I gotta die. I'm like, but no, I'm gonna be there at 4 in the morning. I want to do this. I'm gonna be there at 7:30 to set this up. I'm gonna do this. I willingly want to do this. And you know why it's so important? The word willingness. Because what Jesus was talking about there is, great and servant, people who are willing to serve. Because greatness or serving is really not about controlling people's lives. It's not about subjugating people's lives. It's about touching people's lives. Why is that? Next slide. Because when you willingly serve, you touch a life. There is no other form of action that we could do wherein you could change and touch a person's life other than when you willingly forget about yourself and you put somebody else in front of you. That's why marriages work. Oh, yeah, right. I mean, I'm still learning this up until now. That every time I put my wife first, it just works. It just works. I mean, I've tried putting myself, and I know, right, man. The same thing for her. She puts herself first, and all right. I'm telling you. When you willingly serve, you touch a life. I'll show you this picture. So, the one on the right looks like me, so probably that's me. So I'm talking about this guy on the left, okay? His name is Ryu. This guy is about 30 years old now, I think. And he grew up in church, meaning he told me before, Pastor Matt, I would go to kids' church all the time. When, my mom would bring me to church, and I would be in kids' church. And my teachers would be there, Sunday in and Sunday out, would teach and teach and teach and teach us about God. And that's when he first knew about Jesus in kids' church. It's amazing. And so probably you're sitting there and you're like, so what now? Like, yeah, well, you are just looking at the next senior pastor of our Every Nation Church in Madrid, Spain. This guy was at kids' church, learned about God, in fact, had the vision of wanting to be a pastor because of the people who served in that department every Sunday. And they did not know that this was going to happen a couple of years after. You never know that when you willingly serve now or today, that might be the person God's going to raise up to touch other people's lives tomorrow. And you do that not by affinity, but by serving, willingness, touching people's lives. It's all about that. And Jesus said, well, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. And so here's what he said. So he said, and whoever wants to be first must be, what again? Slave of all. And so again, maybe the disciples were like, okay, I'm just so confused. First and slave, they don't mix again. Well, because again, when Jesus mentioned the word first in the Greek, because again, Mark wrote this in Greek, basically he used the word, the Greek word doulos, and this is what exactly it means in English. Next slide. It says, those who are willingly devoted to another to the disregard of one's own concerns. Very, very close as a servant. Because during that time, to be great, for them to rise, they were thinking, I rise by pushing down people below me. But Jesus says, no, 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 no. That's not the way to greatness. Because the greatness is this. Next slide. Is you rise by lifting others high.
Good.
You rise by lifting others higher. That's how you become great. And the disciples were like, wow, this is so different. And Jesus said, and let me conclude by this. And then he talked about himself. And I didn't even actually know. Probably, I don't know if the disciples caught what he was talking about. And he said, for even the Son of Man did not come to be served. He's talking about himself. But to serve. Come on. How many of you would agree with me? Jesus is already comfortable up there. He did not need to come down. And to become one of us, I'm telling you, he became a slave for you and I, so he can lift up, so he can lift us up.
That's good.
He said, and to give his life as a ransom for many. You touch a life when you serve. Now, hold on to the next slide, please. Do not put that up. But I want to show you a. Was it shown?
It didn't go up. It didn't go up.
Was it shown? Okay. Oh, yeah, anyway. No, it's okay. So I'm going to show you a picture of these two guys, and the one on your right, I asked him, can you just tell me, or can you just write a description of the guy who served you, who really helped you in your walk with God? And I'm going to read to you what he wrote. Okay? Is that okay? It's about 2 hours, so... Okay, can we show the picture? Thank you.
Young PA.
Pastor CJ wrote this for Pastor Ariel. Said, Pastor Ariel has been a steady source of support and guidance in my life. During the times when my marriage was difficult, mainly because of him, not really because of you. Yeah, it's really. During the times when my marriage was difficult, he walked with me in patience and understanding, offering wisdom that helped me stay grounded and hopeful. His presence reminded me that I was not alone, even in the hardest moments. He also stood by me during challenging seasons of ministry. When I felt worn down or uncertain, his encouragement and perspective helped me keep going and continue serving with faith. Beyond ministry, he was there. Yeah, beyond ministry. He was there when I simply needed someone to talk to about personal struggles. He listened without judgment, prayed with me, and helped me see things through the lens of God's grace. Because of the way Pastor Ariel served me, I found strength to endure trials and peace, to trust God more fully, by Pastor Ariel always pointing to me to Christ. He always spoke life to me, not through his opinions, but through always redirecting back to Scripture. God's word was the most valuable word, and Pastor Ariel continually challenged me to lean on God's word. And then he ends with this sentence. His care, his service has left a lasting positive impact on both my faith, my family, and my life. What can we learn about greatness? How can we be great? How can we be a great church? How can we be a great nation? How can we be a great family? If there's one thing that I would like you to learn, and all of us to remember from this amazing, amazing historical account, it's just this sentence. Next slide, please. Is that you don't become great by being served. You become great by serving. Because when you serve, you have the privilege to touch a life. So, we were talking about how to make Kingdom Church great or even greater. And I want to thank you. I mean, in fact, I'm just going to do this. I mean, if that's totally fine. If you are serving right now in different ministries, would you please stand up? I don't want to embarrass you, but I'm going to embarrass you anyway. So can you please stand up? There we go. I want to personally thank you in behalf of Pastor Steve and Joy and also the leaders. Thank you so much for serving. I know that when it comes to serving, sometimes it's challenging because you have your own, families, you have your own stuff to do. And I know that you most likely are the ones who's here first before the rest, and you'll be the last ones to leave. But I'm telling you, every time you come, whatever you do, you're touching a life. And I'm just thinking about this city, Memphis. I'm just thinking, and I was praying, Father, I just pray when the people of Memphis eventually come to Kingdom Church, I thank you that they would feel touched because there are people like you who have planned to put their interest first in your life. You are willing to make yourselves uncomfortable so that you can touch a life. And by that, you're making a huge difference. And every time people come here, every time people invite people to come here, you're making them feel welcome, not because they're attending a church or an event, but because they are being part of a family of Christ. And so I honor you. I thank you. And you may not be able to see the fruits of what you're doing, but there's going to be a lot of Rayus in the future. There's going to be a lot of Pastor CJ in the future. There's going to be a lot of Pastor Steve or Pastor Ariel. There's going to be a lot of these people just because of what you're doing. Please give yourselves a big, big hand. I want to really honor you. Please sit down. And I would like to be able to invite the others to be able to serve as well. And this is not just because, I prepared a great message so that you can just be part of. No, not really. I mean, I gave my life to this ever since I was 16 years old. And I believe in this thing. There's different kinds of ministries or departments here in the church where we would like to invite you to serve with us so that we can touch a life. Where we could willingly serve and make a difference. These are the different departments that we have, in kids ministry. Again, vision starts with these little ones because we are not just here to be able to just minister to the adults, but we're also here because we are thinking about the next generation as well. Please come and help us with kids ministries. And then the second was, is worship. Well, I don't know, but yeah, you might probably have to talk to the worship team about that. But again, just like what Pastor Steve was saying, because you might be a distraction more than serving. But hey, listen, I could not sing. I could have sung today. I just cannot showcase all my incredible talents in one day, though. No, but seriously, if God has given you an amazing voice, you could use that for the Lord. And how many of you, appreciate Melody leading us today? And in fact, the whole team today. Seriously, today, I was just there. I just really wanted to be alone there, but CJ stood beside me. Anyway, but we were singing that Egypt song, whatever that song was. But I was just tearing up there because I'm just thinking, where in the world could I be and would want to be where I'm surrounded by the presence of God with this amazing people who are serving us, and then I'm just reminded of how good, how faithful God is.
Great.
Worship. First impression, just like what Pastor Steve, I have a friend back in Nashville. He told me this one. Because I was asking him, how did you get connected to this church? He said, you know what, actually, Pastor Mel, I visited other churches. They were big and they're amazing. But then when I came to this church, here's what happened to me. Walks inside, somebody greets him warmly. And then, writes, fills out this form, and then he was shocked because the next day he got a call thanking him for coming to church. And then he said, the other churches that I attended, and they were all great, they were all amazing, they were all excellent, amazing churches, but he said, when I got in, somebody greeted me, was not even looking in my eye, and then gave me like this pamphlet, just like that, and that was it. I filled out still the form, Pastor Ma, but I didn't get a call. Sometimes it's not about like, because I saw angels in that church. You know what? The first angel you're going to see? First impressions. Yep. No, seriously. Seriously. If you can just smile, like Pastor Steve, look at that smile. Come on, guys. Right? I mean, you should be part of the first impressions. And then we have the media. Thank you so much for the media. I mean, I made a mistake last night. Sarah, thank you so much. I mean, I made a mistake. I gave them the wrong slides. And so I just found out like last night. But I mean, again, we will not have all these amazing things. We will not be able, I don't think I'll be able to fully and fluently share with you the message unless you see something there. And it's the media right there. Oh, the setup and tear down, dude. I mean, that was my first ministry. I enjoyed that. Yep. I really did. I mean, I'm telling you, the setup and the tear down ministry is a great ministry to just shed off that pride. Yep. I highly recommend that. Highly recommend that. And of course, Ian Campus. Again, we're all about the next generation. There's so many things and so many places here in this church where we could say, I want to touch a life. I want to touch a life. I want to be able to serve willingly because I know that I become great when I serve. So, as soon as we're done in our service, would you please all go to the lobby? And if you're not serving yet, would I please ask you to just touch a life every Sunday? Would I please ask you to do that? And those people whose lives are touched will most likely touch other people's lives too. And that's how we become great. Because at the end of the day, again, here's what we learned. Next slide, please. Is you don't become great by being served. You become great by serving. Let's pray. Father, I thank you today. I thank you because you modeled this for us. You were the first one to have put our best interest in heart. You came down on earth, lived with us, have taken all of our sins, died on the cross, so you can just lift us to the Father. And for that, we'll forever be grateful. For that, we'll forever be touched. And the thing is, every day you're touching our lives because you chose to serve. We don't deserve that. We don't deserve that. And thank you so much for using human beings as Peter and Mark so that we can look back into this historical account and through this speak to us that the way we become great is not by having a lot of money. It's not having affinity to those people in power. It's not going to be able to have a great house and a lot of cars and all that stuff. But greatness is measured by how much people we have touched. And Lord, I pray for this church. This is your church, a great church. And I believe it could even be greater as more and more people decide, you know what? I'm going to touch a life. I'm going to serve because you, my Savior, did that for me. And because you touched my life, I'm going to touch a life too. We're going to make this church great by being servants. We're going to serve the city of Memphis. We're going to serve our families. Lord, help us to serve our wives. Help us to serve our husbands. Oh God, help us to serve our kids. Help us to serve our bosses. Not because it's expected of us, because we're employees. No, but because we just want to touch a life. And by doing this, we become great. We become great. Before I pass this on to Pastor Steve, I want to tell you something. Maybe in about 5 years into our church planting in Madrid, I was talking to this lady. She was part of another church back there. She's part of a bigger church. And she told me this one. She said, Pastor Mel, she said, I adore your church. I think your church is great. Again, I'm not patting myself in the back. I'm just telling you what she said. And I said, why? Why is that? She said, you know what? I am part of a bigger church. It's been existing for many, many years now. And I think we only have about 20-30% of the people serving in our church. And then he said, and here you are, just planted a church. We were just less than 80 people at that time. And 80% of your church are serving. That's great. Let's make Kingdom Church even greater. Let's serve. Because we've been touched by Jesus Christ. Let's touch other people's lives. Because we become great not by being served, but by serving as servants. Let's give God a big, big hand for that.